R to S. Return to solution. Return to solution. Every single time when we have problems, we are facing problems and we get spiraled into those problems and dragged into those problems, and we think about those problems and we think and we think and we think and we overthink and we think more about the problems and we do not stop. So now what must we do? We must R to S. What does that mean? We must return to solution. Return to solution, meaning we must return to solutions thinking. Return to solution thinking. In other words, that's the real path. That's the real path. That's the straight way. That is where our thinking is supposed to be. And when we are getting dragged away by problem thinking, thinking about the problem itself is not a problem. It is when you let that thinking about the problem become negative. It is when you let that problem thinking start to make you very, very anxious and stressed and worried, and you don't know what's going to happen, and you can't make decisions, and there are so many choices to make, and you don't know what's right, and you start thinking life is never going to be like this, and life is not, and you wonder, will you ever get through this problem, and so on. So when that is your situation, then you need to return to solution, right? So what does that mean? Return to solution is like Jason Salk has something called relentless solution focus, RSF, right? So very, very similar. What is relentless solution focus? In the word relentless, you can hear it, relentless solution focus, meaning be relentless on focusing on the solution instead of getting dragged deeper and deeper into thinking about the problem in such a way where you now start feeling despondent and negative, and you just give up. You just give up. So that is not what we want. What we want is, we want you to be in a positive frame of mind. We want you to be thinking that, life isn't so bad, life isn't so miserable. This is just a problem. You can solve the problem, right? Can I solve this problem? Yes, you can solve it. You understand? So when you start realizing that you are too much thinking of the problem in a terrible way, it means, the idea is to be within 7 seconds, right? So it's called a 7-second solution shake-up. So you want to shake it up immediately. You want to get out of that bad thinking mode of worry and stress and stuff, because it's not going to help you. It's not going to help you at all. It's going to help nobody. So you want to get out of that kind of thinking where actually you're not actually going to be doing anything. What you want to be doing is that in 7 seconds, you want to be thinking about solving the problem. So in 7 seconds, you want to recognize that I am busy thinking about the problem in a negative way. And when you do that, the first thing you do immediately is you sing. What do you sing? You sing something, for example, like shake it off, baby. Shake it off, baby, meaning shake off the problem. Shake it off, get it out, get it out of your system. Shake it off, baby, get it out. Shake it off, baby, get a problem out. You get a problem out. You don't want the problem in you anymore, right? And once the problem is out of you, you imagine it, you see it, and then the next thing you do is you BFF it. Bubble floating free. A bubble that floats free. Imagine now you take your problem and you put it in a nice bubble, a nice glistening silvery bubble, and it goes into the bubble and there it floats off. Imagine 10,000 bubbles, 10,000 balloons, 10,000 hot air balloons floating up into the sky, very nice, floating away, and your problem is going with it, right? And when your problem is floating away with it, the next thing you think of is right in front of you, like say 10 meters away from you, you imagine that you can see the solution. So you ask the question, what can I do to get closer to you? So it's in front of you. So you want to be moving towards the solution. So you ask, what can I do to move closer to you? In other words, you're asking yourself Give me an answer, something I can do, one thing that I can do, one small little thing that I can do, the tiniest little thing. But the point is, what I really want to be doing is, I want to be taking a step in the direction of the solution. I want to take some action, instead of thinking about the problem, instead of just thinking about the solution, I want to be doing something. I want to be taking some action about it. And I want to be taking that action within the next 7 seconds. Okay? So in 7 seconds, I must be very quickly be thinking, what's one thing I can do to move towards the solution? It can be, I'm going to take a breath, I'm going to breathe. It can be, I'm going to drink a glass of water. It can be any small act that is going to be positive, something that's going to get you away from worrying too much about the problem, but that is the easiest things. But sometimes you already know what you're supposed to do. For example, maybe you need to pick up the phone, or maybe you have to call somebody, or maybe you have to, send an email, or maybe, and then you make the decision. You're going to do that. Do one thing that's positive. And immediately after you've done that one thing that's positive, recognize that is great. You are now not stuck in the problem. You are now not busy being overwhelmed. You're now not in paralysis analysis, but you have taken one action. And then you think of, right, what's the next action? And then you sit down and you kind of quickly decide, okay, what can I do? I'm going to plan out quickly. What is my problem? What can I do? And then you kind of decide from there what else you can do. But the important thing here is that what we want to do is we want to break the habit of getting stressed and anxious and full of worry and full of all of these things. We want to be breaking that pattern. We want to be breaking that habit. And what we want to do instead is, whenever you find yourself thinking in problems in a bad way, where it's just too much for you, then what you really want is, you want to be taking some action towards a solution. So now, that is one thing you can do. So that is very important, right? This doesn't yet mean that you are working on your highest priorities of goals. This doesn't mean that what you are going to be doing is going to be for the very best. But what it means is, at least it's going to get you out of the spiral, out of the quicksand, out of the thing that is dragging you down. And at least it's giving you time to breathe. It's moving you in the right direction. You want to return to solution. Every time, return to solution. Put it in that bubble, let it float away. See that bubble float away now. Turn maybe in a different direction. See somehow in your mind that there is the solution in front of me, and ask yourself, what can I do to get you closer to me? Or what can I do to get closer to you? And it's it's funny. You're saying it to the problem, but it's imagining the problem. It's being creative. It's being funny. But that funny moment, that creativity moment, that being, it's taking you out of that cortisol in your brain, that chemicals that is, shutting down your prefrontal cortex and shrinking your prefrontal cortex, so that now you can't think anymore, So in other words, it's putting you into the state of mind, which is the best mode for you to get your creative thoughts. Like when you're going for a walk, right, and you're just relaxing, or when you're taking a shower and then you're relaxing, or when you're doing something where you're not really thinking, and then the thoughts, the nice thoughts, the easy, the answers, the creativity, the solutions, it comes to you. So when you are going to be applying the R to S system, which is the return to solution system, which means make it a game, make it fun. When the moment you realize You are now, right, I'm going to play the 7-second game of getting out of the problem thinking. And I'm going to return to solution. I want to get free of this problem, right? So if I want to get free of the problem, first I must recognize that I'm having a problem. So when I recognize I have a problem, I must now say to myself, shake it off, baby. Get it out. Get the problem out. Then I take the problem that is out of me now and I imagine this bubble, this big bubble, and I put it into that bubble, a bubble that is floating, that bubbles that when you were a small child, you were blowing, when it goes up there, it floats away, So that kind of a nice fun bubble, you connect to that kind of part of you, and then there, imagine it's going and hot air balloons flying off and balloons being released filled with helium and it's going all up in the sky, There's your problem going away, right? Your problem, in other words, the stress that's associated with the problem, all that stress, all that worry and anxiety, let it go. Leave it, let it all float away. And then you now imagine the solution. You want the stress out and you want the solution inside of you. So now you imagine the solution and you ask, what can I do to get closer to you? Solution. And that is just like a funny way of asking. It's a funny way. I mean, you can't talk to the solution, but here you are talking to that part of your mind which now going to allow you to have those kind of thoughts. And the more and more and more you practice this, the more and more you're able to get into the default mode network in your brain, right? The default mode network in your brain, your prefrontal cortex is not going to shrink, right? The good endorphins and chemicals that's good for you to relax and feel good, those chemicals are going to be released into your brain, right? So that's the neuroscience of it. This is the psychology of it. So these are the ways that you can, in other words, help yourself overcome problems. So if you want to overcome problems, you can use R2S, return to solution, and use the 7-second solution shake up. Thank you.